Arthur Covington, a man whose Virginia estate was as old as the oak trees shading it, adjusted the silk tie he could no longer see, preparing to tell the biggest lie of his life. This wasn't just a test of his fiancée's love. It was a desperate search for humanity, and he was terrified she, and his home, had none left. The late October air was crisp with the scent of wood smoke and decaying leaves, but the Covington estate felt cold. Inside the grand, traditional house, all polished wood and priceless antiques, a heavy silence reigned. At the breakfast table, the sound of a coffee percolator was the only warmth. Arthur, 45, watched his fiancée, Clara Hayes, 35, over the rim of his cup. She was, as always, visually perfect, her blonde hair immaculate. She was discussing their upcoming Thanksgiving engagement party, her focus entirely on the guest list, not on Arthur or his 8-year-old son Leo. Leo, small for his age and confined to a wheelchair since the accident that took his mother, sat quietly. He struggled to cut his pancake, and a small drop of syrup landed on the floor. Clara sighed audibly, a sound like cracking ice. "Leo, darling, we must be careful. This is Italian marble." She didn't move to help him. She simply rang a small silver bell for the staff. Arthur's jaw tightened. An hour later, Arthur, an experienced equestrian, took his horse out for his morning ride. He rode to a secluded part of the estate, a place shaded by the oldest oaks, and dismounted. He pulled out his phone and called his trusted family friend. "I'm doing it now, Harris." He hung up, took a breath, and executed the controlled fall he had rehearsed in his mind 100 times. He awoke in his study, lying on the couch, the smell of antiseptic filling his nostrils. He heard Dr. Harris's grave voice. "Clara, the trauma to his head is significant. It seems to have resulted in vision loss. It may be permanent." Arthur, bandages wrapped skillfully around his head, kept his eyes closed, listening. Clara's first reaction was a sharp inhale. "Permanent." He listened, straining. Her voice wasn't scared. It was calculating. As Dr. Harris spoke in low tones, Arthur heard the click-click-click of her heels on the hardwood floor as she began to pace. "But, doctor," she finally interrupted, "the Thanksgiving party? The merger announcement." Arthur's heart sank. It was the first piece of proof. Later that night, Arthur sat alone in his dark room, the house silent. He heard the door to the hallway open and close, and then Clara's voice, sharp and annoyed. "Of course I'm upset. But I can't be expected to care for him and the boy. I'll have to hire more help. Probably just some cheap maid to handle Leo." The door clicked shut. Arthur sat alone in the dark, Clara's cold words hanging in the air. The test had officially begun. What do you think of Clara's true colors shining through already? The story is just getting started, and the tension is building here on Black King. If you are listening in on this secret just like Arthur and you're hooked, let us know you've made it this far by commenting with the number 9 below. And if you want to be the first to find out who this cheap maid is and what she'll uncover, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell. Your support is what allows us to keep creating powerful stories like this one. The advertisement for household help was specific. Discretion and loyalty required, but Amara Washington knew it was likely code for "don't apply if you look like me." She applied anyway. Arthur's blindness had sharpened his hearing, and as he sat in his study, he now heard the clear, racial bias in Clara's voice during the interview, a bias he realized he had been blind to before. The interview took place in the main hall, a grand, cold space. Arthur sat blindly near the unlit fireplace listening. "Your experience," Clara began, her voice dripping with condescension. "Is it with families like ours? Are you used to this kind of work?" Amara's 30 voice was composed, intelligent, and warm, though Arthur could hear the exhaustion beneath it. "I am a hard worker, ma'am." "You'll call me Miss Hayes," Clara snapped. Clara hired Amara, mostly Arthur suspected, to show him she was handling things. He heard her giving Amara a tour, the sound of their footsteps fading down the hall. Her tour ended at Leo's room. "Your main job is him," Clara said, her voice sharp. "Keep him out of the way." Arthur heard Clara's heels click away. The house fell silent. Then from the hallway, he heard a new sound, Amara's voice, soft and low. "Which one are you looking for, sweetheart?" He hadn't heard Clara call his son sweetheart once. Leo, who Arthur knew was hiding in the hallway, must have pointed. "The one about horses," Leo whispered. Later that day, the sounds from Leo's room were different. Not the usual silence, but the sound of quiet conversation and sketching. Arthur, blindly navigating the hall, heard Amara genuinely engaging with his son, asking him about his drawings. The contrast came at dinner. The clinking of silver was loud in the tense dining room. Leo, excited for the first time in weeks, dropped his fork. "For heaven's sake, Leo," Clara snapped. "Amara, clean that up. That's what you're paid for." Arthur felt a surge of shame so potent it almost made him stand up and end the charade. That evening, Arthur sat on the enclosed porch, pretending to nap. He heard the soft rumble of Leo's wheelchair on the wooden ramp to the garden. He heard Amara's quiet encouragement. "One will at a time. You've got this. I'm right here." And then, for the first time since his wife died, Arthur heard his son laugh, a short, genuine giggle. The porch door swung open, the sound echoing in the twilight. Clara stood there, silhouetted. "Amara, stop playing games and get back to polishing the silver for the Thanksgiving party. And Leo, you'll get dirty. Go inside." The laughter stopped cold. Clara Hayes knew that jealousy was an ugly emotion, but she couldn't stand the way Arthur, even blind, seemed to listen when the maid was in the room. Leo's brief moment of laughter on the ramp was gone, replaced by the familiar, tense silence. Clara felt she was losing control, and she decided she needed to remove Amara. The preparations for the Thanksgiving engagement party were underway, filling the house with the scent of pine cones and the stress of florists. The tension was thick. One morning, Arthur sat at the breakfast table, fumbling for his coffee cup. Clara sighed, a sound of pure impatience. "I'm right here, Arthur, honestly." Amara, who was quietly entering to clear the plates, moved the cup to his hand. "It's just to your left, Mr. Covington. Careful, it's hot." Arthur nodded, his face unreadable. He noted the difference, Clara's impatience versus Amara's quiet action. That night, a small cry came from Leo's room. Amara, whose room was nearby, heard him and went to check. She found him tangled in his sheets, whimpering from a nightmare. She sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his back. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe." The door flew open. Clara stood there, her silk robe drawn tight. "What are you doing in his room? Don't you dare get comfortable. You are the help." "He was scared, Miss Hayes," Amara said, standing up. Clara leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. "He's a weak boy. And if you tell Arthur about this, I'll make sure you're fired for stealing. It's my word against yours." The threat was now concrete. The next day, Clara met her high society friend Patricia at a local diner, a classic spot with vinyl booths and the smell of old coffee. Over pie, Clara vented. "He's obsessed with her. And the boy follows her like a puppy." Patricia, stirring her coffee, said coolly, "Then get rid of her." "A girl like that? It's easy to make things disappear." A plan formed in Clara's mind. That afternoon, Clara accidentally knocked an expensive antique vase off a table in the study, where Arthur was listening to the radio. It shattered on the hardwood. "Oh, Arthur, it's shattered," she cried. She immediately screamed for Amara. "Amara, what did you do? You careless girl. This was my grandmother's." Amara ran in, confused. "Miss Hayes, I was in the kitchen." "She broke it, Arthur." Clara insisted. "Just bumped right into it. You can't trust these people with nice things." Arthur, knowing Clara was lying, said coldly, "Amara, please clean it up." "Clara, darling, perhaps you should rest. You sound overwrought." Clara's face tightened. She realized she had just lost the exchange, and her hatred for Amara deepened into something dangerous. Arthur just saw through Clara's first petty trap, but that only means she's going to try something much worse. The deadly secret is coming, and you can feel the tension rising here on Black King. If you are still watching and you are on the edge of your seat waiting to see what Clara does next, let me know you're here by commenting with the number 8 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend you do, and make sure to turn on that notification bell. Your support is what helps us continue to create amazing content that informs and inspires. Now let's keep going. The quiet kindness Amara had brought to the Covington estate was gone, replaced by the sharp, metallic smell of a trap being set. Clara's failed attempt to frame Amara with the vase only solidified her resolve. Her deadly secret would be much bigger and harder to deny. It was mid-November, just 1 week before the scheduled Thanksgiving engagement party. The house was cold despite the festive cornucopias and autumn wreaths Clara had ordered. A palpable sense of dread had settled over the polished floors. One afternoon, Clara sat with Arthur in the study. She placed a heavy diamond necklace in his hand. "It was your mother's, wasn't it, darling?" she cooed. "I'm having it cleaned for the Thanksgiving party." Arthur nodded, his face passive as he felt the cold weight of the stones. Later, while Amara was outside pushing Leo in the garden, the one place he still left, Clara moved quickly. She sneaked into Amara's modest room, her heels silent on the thin rug. She opened the single suitcase in Amara's closet and hid the necklace deep inside a pair of folded sweaters. An hour later, a theatrical scream echoed from Clara's bedroom. "My necklace. Arthur, the necklace, your mother's necklace. It's gone." She ran to the study where Arthur was listening to the news. "It must be the maid," she declared. "She was the only one up here cleaning." Clara's voice was sharp with faux panic. "We must search her room. To clear her name, of course." In Amara's room, Amara stood stunned as Clara, with Arthur blindly present, went straight to the suitcase. Clara plunged her hand in and pulled out the diamond necklace. "I knew it," she gasped. Amara's face drained of all color. I have never seen that in my life," she whispered, shaking. "Miss Hayes, you know I didn't." Silence. Clara spat. "Arthur, she's a thief. A common thief, just like all of." She stopped, letting the racial slur hang in the air, thick and poisonous. Amara looked at Arthur, her eyes wide and pleading for him to believe her, not just as her employer, but as a decent man. Arthur, bound by his own ruse, said nothing, his face a mask of stone. The trap had sprung, but Clara Hayes didn't realize the blind man she was trying to fool was the one holding the cage door. Arthur's stony silence at the end of Chapter 4, which Amara took for betrayal, was the final confirmation he needed. He now moved from passive observation to actively setting his own counter-trap, using the upcoming Thanksgiving party as the deadline. The following 48 hours, the estate was unnervingly quiet. Clara had confined Amara to her room until the police arrived, a call she hadn't actually made. While Clara was smug, victorious, and now focused entirely on the Thanksgiving party, Arthur moved. No longer just blind. He moved with purpose when alone. Locking his study door, he called Dr. Harris. "Harris, I need everything you have on Clara Hayes. Bank accounts, phone records, and her friend, Patricia." He revealed his plan. He knew Amara was innocent. Meanwhile, Leo, heartbroken, had snuck to Amara's room, crying. "She's lying. I'll tell him." Amara, though devastated, stopped him. "No, Leo, it's too dangerous for you." That evening, Arthur found Amara in her room, pretending to navigate by sound. "Mr. Covington, I swear to you," she began, her voice thick with despair. He cut her off gently, placing his hand on the doorframe. "Amara, I know." His voice was quiet, firm. "Do not leave this house." "Wait. Can you trust me?" She, hearing the sincerity, nodded. "Yes." The next day, Dr. Harris provided the proof. Text messages between Clara and Patricia planning the theft. Armed with this, Arthur called Clara. He used a shaky, defeated voice. "Clara, you were right about Amara. I was a fool. Please, let's just handle this quietly before Thanksgiving. Come to the study tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we'll decide what to do with her." Clara, believing Arthur was now fully dependent on her, agreed. "Of course, darling. I'll handle everything. I'll even call Patricia to come as a witness to what Amara did." She had just invited her accomplice into the trap. The morning of the meeting, Amara was waiting in the hall as instructed. Dr. Harris arrived. "Arthur is ready for you." He opened the study door, and Amara saw 2 uniformed police officers standing discreetly in the corner. For the 10 a.m. meeting, Clara Hayes wore her most expensive pearls, unaware she was about to be dressed in handcuffs. The deadly secret was about to be fully uncovered by the Maid and the Billionaire. Arthur's grand study felt like a courtroom. Clara and Patricia walked in smug. Arthur sat in his chair, wearing the dark glasses. Amara, Dr. Harris, and the two officers stood silently in the corner. Clara, Arthur began, his voice tired. Just tell me what happened one more time for the officers. Clara began a dramatic performance, detailing how she caught Amara. Patricia added corroborating details. They were both lying, and their stories, which Arthur was recording, began to conflict. As Clara finished, "She's just a lying thief." Arthur suddenly stood up. He slowly removed his dark glasses. The room froze. "Arthur, you can see." Clara gasped, her smile freezing. "Oh, I can see everything," Arthur said, his voice like ice. "I saw you plant that necklace, Clara. And I heard you confessing to Patricia on this." He held up Dr. Harris's phone, playing a recording of their texts. The officers stepped forward. "Clara Hayes, you're under arrest." As she was handcuffed, Clara's panic turned to rage. She screamed at Amara, My lawyer will destroy you. You'll be back scrubbing floors in the gutter, where you belong." Amara, calm and centered, spoke for the first time. "I doubt that, Miss Hayes. You see, I passed the Virginia bar in 2021. Assault, defamation, and planting evidence? That's a minimum of 3 felonies. I'll be seeing you in court." Clara and Patricia stared, horrified, as they realized who they tried to frame. The officers took them away. The house was silent. Arthur turned to Amara, his eyes full of apology and admiration. "A lawyer, huh?" Amara smiled slightly. "A very tired one." Leo rolled in, cheering. Arthur pulled Amara and Leo into a tight hug. "I think this calls for a Thanksgiving celebration." A few days later. It's Thanksgiving. The table is set not for a party, but for 3. Arthur, Amara, and Leo. The room is warm, filled with the smell of roast turkey. Arthur raised a glass of sparkling cider to Amara. "To family."